an ancient code protecting oil from destruction. That can't be true, can it? Hi, I'm Allie, and my coffee machine tried to summon a demon this morning. It spewed espresso like a possessed squid.
You poured water into the grinder, so human error. But yes, it did hiss at me like an offended cat. Hi, I'm Brianne.
Welcome to the Veil, unsolved and unbelievable. Buckle up. Today we are going deep into the Persian Gulf, like oil terminal deep. Okay, so check this out. Today's mystery is on Kharg Island. There's this weird 5-line Achaemenid inscription, and my theory is that it hides a code. A map that modern oil planners quietly followed to protect the island's oil infrastructure.
So an ancient cuneiform Easter egg, telling 21st century engineers where to plonk supertankers. Right, not asking for much then.
Here's the deal. First, Kharg itself. It's an Iranian island in the Persian Gulf off Bushehr, northwest of the Strait of Hormuz. Strategic doesn't even cover it. It's guarded by the IRGC, access is restricted, and people call it the Forbidden Island. It matters because up to 90% of Iran's oil exports move through Kharg. That's bananas. Deep waters let them moor very large tankers where most of Iran's coast is too shallow. They built a T-shaped jetty on the east, a sea island terminal to the west, the Darius terminal in the south, and a gas terminal called Chemco. By the mid-1970s, it was the world's largest offshore crude oil terminal, with storage around 30 million barrels and the ability to load up to 10 supertankers at once. Crude comes in from the mainland through a 99-mile pipeline from Gaxaran finished in 1959, and offshore fields like Abuzar and Firuzan feed it too. It's this insanely integrated network, all humming on a small island that even has its own freshwater supply, which is super rare in the Gulf.
And somehow, only a few thousand people actually live there. The 2016 census had around 8,000 residents for the whole district. Tiny population, massive global footprint. Love a paradox.
Historically, it's wild too. A huge Christian monastic complex from around the 700s to 800s, rock-cut tombs, possible Zoroastrian fire temple remains, and even Sassanid and maybe Jewish burials. And then the inscription. In 2007, someone found Old Persian cuneiform on coral rock in this unusual 5-line order. Translations vary, but it talks about bringing water or happiness to land without canals. Achaemenid vibes, Connaught energy. It was vandalized in 2008, which is tragic. All right, moving on. My theory. I believe those 5 lines are not just royal bragging. I think they sketch an ancient water spine under Kharg, a pressure-stabilizing vein. The Achaemenid text references making waterless land livable, and Kharg having fresh water is unusual. Picture an old hydrological backbone, and in the 20th century, planners unconsciously, or very consciously, aligned the island's heaviest oil infrastructure along that same stabilizing lattice.
Wait. Are you saying modern engineers used a 2,000-plus-year-old blurb as an oil field blueprint? Conspiracy alert. I call BS.
Hear me out. The 5-line order is odd for Old Persian. It reads like stacked rails. I took satellite images and historical terminal schematics from open sources, traced the T-jetty to the east, the sea island to the west, the Darius terminal in the south, the Chemco gas stacks, and the Gaxaran feed. When I overlay the inscription's 5 lines, the alignments are eerie. Not perfect, but close in spirit. Like each major artery falls on or near a line. And then look at 2026. In February 2026, satellite analysis shows Iran starts reducing oil stored on Kharg. By March 2026, reported full tanks drop from around 27 to about 9. And in March 2026, the U.S. said it hit roughly 90 military targets on Kharg, but spared the oil infrastructure. If you're nervous about destabilizing a literal water spine under your oil terminals, drawing down tanks and avoiding the jetties is exactly what you'd do. The island's access is locked down. The IRGC guards everything, and they even introduced super strict visitor permits in 2026 for tiny guided tourism. Sure, security for oil, but if you've got an ancient hydrological skeleton key under a terminal that handles most of your exports, you don't want randoms poking around sink risk zones.
Okay, let me put a pin in the mystique and give you the boring reasons. 1. Sparing the oil gear in 2026 has a very straightforward rationale. You do not crater a hub that moves a huge chunk of global supply, unless you want instant market chaos. They said they targeted military installations and avoided the terminals. That tracks with basic strategy, not ancient curses. 2. The inscription's authenticity is disputed. It got dragged into the Persian Gulf naming fight. Scholars argue over whether it's genuine Achaemenid, and the translations are generic anyway. Bring water, bring happiness, not turn left at Sea Island. You can't reverse engineer coordinates from poetry. The vandalism in 2008 is also debated, so saying key-coded bits were attacked is pure speculation. 3. Kharg's oil complex dates to the mid-20th century. The pipeline was finished in 1959. The terminal was inaugurated in 1960. And big expansions with Amoco and NIOC came in the late 60s and 70s. Engineers picked sites for deep water, seabed, load paths, wind and wave, not to please a 5-line rock carving. 4. The tank drawdown before March 2026 looks like standard wartime risk mitigation. You lower the blast and fire load if you expect strikes. That's textbook safety, not occult hydraulics. And IRGC tight access is fully explained by the island being Iran's oil jugular and a military zone. No mystery needed.
Seriously, though, the 5 lines are unusual and the text explicitly talks about water. Kharg having fresh water is rare in the Gulf, and the island's religious and burial layers scream ancient engineering savvy. Zoroastrian fire altars, a massive Christian complex with cells and a library, rock-cut tombs with Palmyrene-style flourishes. People invested in this rock for centuries. You think nobody found and used a stabilizing vein?
I think geology and luck explain fresh water. Aquifers happen. And if an ancient code protected Kharg's oil, the Iraqi Air Force in the 80s did not get the memo. They bombed the island repeatedly and put the facilities out of commission between 1982 and 1986. Post-war, they rebuilt and even expanded. That screams confidence in hardening and repair, not magical alignment.
I'm not saying a force field, I'm saying a guide. A lattice you respect so the ground behaves better under massive jetties and tanks. After the war, they doubled down on concentration at Kharg instead of dispersing terminals elsewhere. And to me, that hints they believe the substructure holds if you build where it wants you to.
Or they doubled down because Kharg's waters are uniquely deep, letting supertankers actually dock. That's a clear, measurable advantage. Plus, in the 60s, Iran and Saudi Arabia set maritime lines. Kharg is solidly under Iran. Add logistics, the 99-mile Gatcharan feed, and existing jetties, and you get path dependence. Engineers are not hiding epigraphy in CAD drawings. They are following physics and politics.
And yet, in March 2026, the strikes hit around 90 military targets, but spared the oil. They even trialed those hyper-controlled tourism permits that year, chaperoned at all times. If the island is just pipes and pumps, why let anyone in at all? Because they know the story matters. The rock matters. And stories sometimes guard infrastructure as well as concrete does.
The point is, we love patterns. Our brains wire dots together. You overlaid 5 lines on a map and saw meaning. Apophenia is a thing. But hey, I'll give you this. Ancient water knowledge like Kanat's absolutely changed landscapes. That part is real. It just doesn't mean someone encoded Sea Island's coordinates in coral.
Back to the story. I still believe my 5-line code is pointing at something under Kharg. Maybe not left turn at the jetty, but a spine. A hum you can feel under your boots. And in a place nicknamed the Forbidden Island, that hum might be the oldest rule on the board. Build where the water says yes.
Let's move on to the big question. Can ancient knowledge steer modern tech? Totally. In methods and in mindset. Canards, wind catchers, all of it. But does a single ancient inscription quietly program a 20th century oil terminal? I'm going to say no, with love.
Recommendation time. If you want the deep dive on the region's past, grab The Persian Gulf in History. It's a killer starting point for understanding why places like Kharg keep ending up at the center of everything.
All right, moving on. We promised ourselves an escape room tonight. If the puzzle has 5 lines carved into fake coral, I'm walking out.
Can you imagine? I'll be like, align the jetty, reduce tank inventory, and boom, door opens. Anyway, thank you for listening, friends. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep questioning the unbelievable.